I was trying to get.
Alrighty, let's go. All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Welcome back to the Awakened Avoidant with myself and Miss Krystal Renee, hosting together, co-host, host, not co-host, whatever. But thanks for coming back. Thanks for showing up. And, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, this is what, 4?
I don't know. Is this our 4th? I wanted to ask you. 1, 2, 3, maybe.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. After hearing the first podcast, what did you think of that? Did you listen to it, right?
I did. I did a lot of ums.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my big critiques from there of myself. And sorry, I'm trying to control the ums now, so I paused.
Okay.
Jeez Louise.
Oh, yeah, you just did it again. That's all right. They'll go away eventually, or not. Some of your you had, I didn't even tell you that, you had some ums that were longer than probably you would have wanted, so I just edited them out. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I did. Did you notice any of the editing?
No.
Oh, cool.
Cool, good job then.
Yeah, I chopped it up a little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you.
So is that all that you, just the ums?
I mean, sometimes we, we're we get lost in conversation or but yeah.
Yeah, that's my fault though.
I mean, there's both of us. Takes two to tango, so we're both just swimming around.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this combo.
I think it's just lack of structure. We had structure coming into it, an idea of what we wanted to talk about, but once we sit down, navigating it can just be challenging because you're just friends kind of hanging out and you just kind of forget what the hell are we talking about and just let it go. And then one of us has to bring it back, and it's me, or now it's going to be you now. So we'll probably talk about it before. Hey, make sure you steer this back when we divert, or hey, pull it back in or reel it in. You realize how much of podcasts, it's different. I think if it's an interview, that's something different than a collaborative effort, like us working together. How hard that is and how much of a dance it is, and just the give and take, and you lead, I lead, slow down, speed up, when do I come in, let you speak, not stepping on you. There's a lot involved to it.
Yeah, and I think that we also need to be gentle with ourselves because we are having an organic conversation versus what we see on TV that's already scripted out, where they already know the answers to the questions that they're asking, So...
Yeah, I thought you did. I mean, I thought we did pretty good because literally that episode is the first time we ever sat down together and had a conversation. To me, that shit is crazy. To make something that's mildly entertaining.
Literally the first time we've ever sat down and had a conversation, because we knew of each other, but have never, ever, ever, ever had a conversation before.
Yeah, and you did that shit on camera at my home, basically a stranger's home. And, was able to convey and communicate and be, mildly, fairly comfortable, I guess, as comfortable as a person can be. So I thought it was good. I thought you did good.
Thanks.
Like you said, I was proud of it and us. And, we just continue and try to keep getting better.
Mm-hmm. All right, so today.
Loss. Is it the wound of loss? The wound of loss.
Yes.
One more thing I noticed. Matt and Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know they have a podcast?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they do have a podcast. So when we're probably gonna have to switch our title up a little bit because I think that they do it the same way that they do the book. They title their episodes the same way.
Okay.
We're following them pretty much, but it's not like we're copying because we were unaware of it. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that if we one, we're giving credit to them and the book. And then 2, it's maybe tagging them this is because of your book. This is something that we've been talking about, and giving people a link to the book.
Oh yeah.
So that way they get their dues. It's kind of we're just advertising them in a way.
Oh yeah, I don't mean following their footsteps. I guess I meant literally for me. The way I titled the episode was very close to the way that they titled their episode because they're following the book, and we're following the book. So just for me, I'd have to switch that up. It's not really a big deal. Didn't even need to tell you, but.
Well, thank you for open communication.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So the wound of loss.
Okay, so The trigger is perceived loss. The root program is resistant to change. So the traumas are obviously, we have death, loss of money, unreconciled past regret, painful unexpected change, any and all extreme losses, painful consequences from past choices, and aging. And the primary emotion is grief and regret.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The wound of loss. You want to lead out?
What I was just thinking about was, what's his name? He was the one in the Taurus. That
In the Taurus, like the four
no,
Taurus?
he's a no. Oh my gosh, I looked at his birth chart. I'm all over the place right now. But he's a Taurus, and he like Ponzi scheme. One of the biggest Ponzi scheme.
White fella?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are. Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bernie Madoff, and like because when I looked at the loss of money, that made me think of him.
Oh,
the
okay.
loss of money, and how many people killed themselves due to the loss of money.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing to take your own life over, but I've never lost enough money to feel like, I need to exchange my life for it. But I can imagine if you spend your whole life working towards something and you lose it,
I know, but there's also that mindset. So okay, so you can lose a shit ton of money, but you can also make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't like. I don't know, like that's
like
seems
maybe-
like pretty silly.
Yeah.
But I get it that we're talking about billions of dollars and this, that, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think it's more of like, it's not even the money, it's more of the pride that comes with the not having the money now. Or, yeah.
So what the hell made you say Bernie Madoff? What made you bring him up?
I'm a wacko.
Okay.
But
So
the
Bernie
loss
Madoff has nothing to do with anything.
well, the loss of money and him
okay.
committing, and the people that commit suicide do from like the
I
loss
got
of
you.
money.
I got you.
But yeah, death obviously I feel is the main
biggest.
one for the wound of loss. What is your take on death?
I think when I was younger, I had a hard time with it, like a real hard time with it, because I don't know about you, but as a kid, I don't know if there was no awareness of a child's needs, or just a lack of communication. So everything that was happening was just like, I was internalizing a lot of it because no one was talking about it with me, so I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't have many people close to me, like in my family, die. But when I was a kid, I had my childhood friends, like best friends. They died in a house fire.
How old?
I was probably like 6.
Oof.
Yeah, they died in an electrical fire, and we just never talked about it. Like no one ever talked about it. So I think from that, I think I carried this hero thing with me for like my whole life, even to now. Still, it's like, I'm just like looking to save someone from a burning building, from that instance. Yeah, and it's just because we never talked about it ever. Still, just no words. I just carried it. Yeah, that was a big one, and my first one at a young age. Even now, I feel like I'm still just figuring out how to deal with it, because I didn't grieve it. I didn't know who the hell knows what grieving is at 6.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that was my first big loss. How about you?
I guess the first known one was my cousin Dwayne. He died when I think I was 14, maybe 15. I think I was 15. And he was like one of my favorite people. And I remember just being at his funeral. I was a hot mess. And I will never forget my mom talking to someone and someone was like asking them like, were they that close? Like, because I was like legit like upset. And I remember my mom saying like, oh, they like went to the movies and stuff. Like he took me to the movies and like things like that. And just like genuinely like was just someone who like just cared, which I've never had that experience with like anyone in my family.
Mm.
And I remember there was one time where my mom and I were at his house, like, cause he lived with my uncle, and he wanted to go to the music store to get a CD back in the day. And he asked me if I wanted to go with him. I said yes. And he was like, "You're going to tell your mom." He was like, "Go tell your mom." And I didn't, because I knew if I went and told her, she would tell me no. So I just snuck off with him. And then when we came back to his house, she already left. And I remember just crying the whole entire ride home, because I was like, I'm going to get beat. That's it. This is going to be the beating of a lifetime. Like, just like crying the whole time. And then when we got there, he talked to her and asked her not to beat me. And it was like, I don't know. I think like that was the first time anyone's ever like stood up for me. And it was just like, I think I was thinking about this the other day. And I think my tears were more for me than for him. Where it was like, I don't know if there's ever going to be anyone that's going to stand up for me.
Damn.
And I remember his going to his gravesite for the first time. We stopped to get flowers, and I wanted to get a card. So like my mom let me go in the store by myself, gave me money, so I had money to get a card. And like there's no like happy funeral like day, or like, because it was his birthday. So there's no like, you know, like,
yeah, there's no card for that.
Yeah. So I got a first birthday, and it was happy like first birthday in heaven. And I think after that, it kind of was this, just like in my mind, it was like, shit, like you're in heaven, like you're having a great time, hopefully, like doing wonderful things, probably like eating milkshakes or, you know, whatever. And like, we're the ones who suffer down here because we miss you. And it was like, after that, it just like, I just looked at death like in a different way.
So losing him because you had faith in something beyond here, is it easier, I guess? Question mark. Is it easier to accept that loss or harder? Because I never had that.
It definitely made it easier for me. And I remember a few years later, no, not even, like maybe a year later, there was a classmate. He had cancer, and like, we were two nerdy kids. Like we went on the school bus and like we joke around about this movie that we had in common. And like, I just, you know, we kind of like got close through like joking around on the school bus. And it was a big deal in school because everyone knew that he had cancer. He'd gained a lot of weight. You could see, right? And it was just like, you know, we had fundraisers and all of these things. And I remember my mom coming into my room and telling me that, you know, it's official, he had passed. And I was like playing Barbies in my room. I played Barbies for a really long time, like in my teens.
My mom still collects them.
I know, but she's not sitting on the floor playing with them.
Yeah, she might be.
I mean, and then I think I can remember my mom's facial expression after she told me, and I was just like unfazed by it. And she was like confused because I remember, like, I guess my thought process is seeing how I was with my cousin, she just assumed that I was going to be a mess like with this death. But then after having that epiphany, after bringing the card to my cousin, I now looked at death in a different way. So it was just like, it sucked for him, you know, going through chemo and doing all those things. And like, he was so uncomfortable. And I, like in my head, I was like it was more of a relief for him than it was than anything else. I was like, he's not having a good time. Like, this is not fun for him,
It's
you know?
interesting. So you were at peace in a sense with him finding
For
peace.
him. Like, I was sad for his mom,
Mm,
sad for his siblings, that sad for them, but for him, I was happy.
yeah, makes sense. Have you ever had a loss that you had to process or use tools or the steps, that they say a person should use to grieve?
So, so yes, because this is kind of what we were talking about before about like me like pre-grieving,
Hmm.
kind of.
Is that a real thing? Is pre-grieving a real thing, or is that just your thing?
I guess it's just like
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I'm just like wondering, like pre-grieving. I never heard of it until you just said it right now. But okay, pre-grieving.
I guess. I mean, maybe we could Google it and see if it's a
Yeah,
thing.
I'm
But
super
like,
curious. But
check
no,
your
it's all right.
phone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
The
so
phone's recording this.
oh, okay.
So pre-grieving.
Yes. So I look at grief as something that kind of can. I'm a Pisces, water sign. So I have a 5-year-old daughter. Let me just tell you, she thinks it's funny that every movie that we watch, I somehow end up crying at like some point. And like, I can cry at a commercial. Like, I am an emotional creature. I am okay with that. I'm in touch with my emotions. And with that, I can be very sentimental. So grieving, I realized in order, like grieving can keep someone stuck. And that is not a place that
Mm,
I enjoy.
yeah.
So I like to process things quickly so that I can keep it moving. So thinking about, for me, it's how can I honor this person? What is it that I can do to transmute this energy of being sad to what can I do to keep them a legacy? So like for my cousin, my daughter has his middle name.
Mm. I like that, keeping his name alive. Can I
Yeah.
ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Is this something that you knew to do as a child or a teenager, or is this something that you learned to do as you aged?
I guess like technically it's something that it's just been escalating, but now I have other tools to add to it.
Mm.
So like even now I have a grief oracle deck, so or angel decks. So this past weekend, I was talking to this woman who I also bartend, and this woman came in with her girlfriend. They ate lunch at the bar, and the only reason why I found out this information was because she's like, hands me her credit card, and she's like, listen, my husband just passed away this week, and they can't. I canceled his card, they canceled my card too. And then I was like, wait, what did you just say? Because she said it in like a complete sentence. And I was
Mm.
like, and she repeated the second half, and I was like, wait, what did you say before that? And she's like, my husband passed, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry, like, and me being me, I go to work with a bunch of different oracle decks and things like that. So I pulled a deck out and asked her permission if she wanted to pull a card, and I didn't have my grief deck. I had a different like angel deck. But the wild thing was the message that she got was basically about what she should be doing, like moving forward. The card that she got was about her getting back into like theater, pretty much. And she's like, "This is so wild. Like, this is what I really used to love," and blah blah blah. And so we're just talking, and it's just like, even that she was with that man for like 40 something years. She wasn't like a wreck at the bar, but you could tell like they had a whole like life. That's all 40 years. I haven't
Yeah.
even lived 40 years yet. So my ultimate point is there she's grieving, but she's not going to stay stuck, and she doesn't have to stay stuck. She can move on to that. I did all of these things with my husband, and now in this chapter I just get to focus on things just for me.
Yeah. Have you, in your coaching capacity, has anyone ever reached out to you and needed help with the grieving process, or reached out to you like figuring out how to grieve? Because I don't know about. For me personally, really didn't know what that even meant. I just know the word, but like I said before, I don't know the steps to processes. Like I just thought, time heals all, and it really doesn't. So has
Yeah.
anyone ever reached out to you, like needing help with that?
So I've had just like not too many, but enough, where we focus on, as I've been saying, like transmuting that energy, turning it into something where it's like, what can we do to raise your vibration? What can we do to honor that person? What can we do to, what is it that they like to do? I actually also asked this woman particular about like, because this is something that I've just started doing, but putting out, all right, it's gonna sound wild, but so asking her like, so I asked her, did your husband like to drink? And she didn't have. She said no, he had stopped drinking when we first met. And she was like, that was kind of boring, but whatever. She was funny, but because I'd asked her, because my spirit guides and ancestors, they like rum. So I put rum out for them in a shot glass. I also have water out, and the water, I can watch the water of like the water really doesn't move, where I'm just like, you guys need to drink more water. But the rum, that moves really quickly, like really quickly. So that's another thing of having a, not like pouring one out for them, like that could be a thing, but like maybe having a drink with friends that was their favorite drink in honor of them. And it could be tea or coffee, their favorite tea, sitting down and having a cup for them, and maybe even just like having this like telepathic conversation with them, or cooking their favorite meal. Hopefully you like it too, because you need to eat it.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah.
interesting. I'd never thought of something like that, honoring them in that way and like making it so real. Like, I definitely, well, for me personally, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I just believe in energy, like kind of like entropy, and it can't be created nor destroyed, like it just kind of goes in a secular type thing. So sometimes, yeah, I definitely try to, honor people, but I never thought about like making it that real, which could be a good idea. Like, I light a candle every year. The first death that I ever had, like, I lost that loss that I told you about when I was a child was the one that was definitely not processed at all. And then I had a friend that lost his life to a gun violence incident. And then I had a friend recently who lost his son to a, gun violence incident. And that one gave me tremendous anxiety just because, I recently had a son. So, like, hearing that, knowing that my friend lost his son, it was just,
How old was the son?
I carried that. He was in his 20s. I carried that for, I mean, I probably still carry it. Just something like so visceral about that, and just knowing that my friend is having to find his way through that pain. I just can't imagine it, and I don't even want to put myself in his shoes to try to imagine it, what that feels like. At most, all I can do is, have empathy for him. But as far as, trying to, put myself in that space, I can't, I'm not, I don't have that power, nor do I want to. And so, yeah, those losses, no process. I have nothing with that. But the first loss that I ever had like a good experience with was probably my wife's father, my son's grandfather. And that was just him passing suddenly, but us all being in the hospital and just like being there for him and holding his hand as he transitioned. And that was pretty special. I never had anything like that. I never thought that I would even feel that way about a loss, like I wouldn't say good, but the experience was good, if that makes sense.
How's your wife?
I imagine, probably still struggling a little bit, because losing your
How
dad
recent was this?
a couple years ago.
Okay.
And it was sudden too, so it was, shocking. No one saw it coming. It just happened. But luckily we got to be there, and through that experience it was just like, you just realize time, how fleeting that this shit is, and how quickly someone can be gone, and who's important and what's important. And, I just want to try to create a life that in the end, that's all you can hope for, is that, people that love you are standing around you, seeing you on your way out, or, as you transition. That was the first loss that I had that was like unique and felt good, if that makes any sense. That I carry that, and that I'm able to tell that story to my son and share that with him. And whatever energy that was shared in that moment, in that space, you know, that's with me. I carry that. So every time I'm with my son, it's like a piece of his grandfather is with me. So I get to tell him that story. You know, it's hard. That shit is extremely hard. You know, everyone says that they want to be there at the end, and you do want to be there at the end. Like, of course, where else would you want to be? But it is hard. It's very hard. Have you ever had anything like that?
Where I was there. Okay, so I have one where I was there at the very end for my stepdad's mom. And then, so that was, we had known, we had known that she was transitioning, so we were all there. But it's like, oh my gosh, at the same, like, so as I've been saying, I don't really have like healthy like family dynamics because so she was to put it in the nicest way, she was high on the narcissism scale. And what she would do between my stepdad and my stepdad's sister is she would basically pin them against each other. So they were like fighting at the very like end of her death. Like, yeah, it was just, a bunch of drama. That part of like being in the hospital, they were able to behave themselves. But it was just kind of like the energy was just like really fucked up in in there. Like, you know.
So sort of the opposite of what I was describing.
Yeah, like
Okay.
it was kind of like, it was peaceful in that sense of like everyone was trying to be peaceful, to be respectful, but it just
There was some animosity in the
there
room.
yeah there was just, you know, and being like an empath and feeling other people's energies and all, like it was just like, yeah.
Loss is hard. I get it, especially when things aren't, you know, like cohesive and everything's on the same page, like because everyone's dealing with the loss differently. So, you know, everyone's hurting in a different way. So having it come together in those moments, the chances of that shit happening are slim to none because everyone's so hurt and just traumatized. The last thing that they're going to do is come together if they're not already together. Like, you know, maybe for a moment it might bring someone together, but, you know, everyone's just hurting. They don't know what to do and just in their own shit.
Yeah. I feel like everyone was in their own shit and still had, you could tell there was, I don't know, I think like part of it too was really seeing their inner children come out in like, it's kind of like watching that, like seeing them as adults, but really hearing and seeing their inner child and basically hearing their resentment from their like inner child.
And
still,
they carried that to that moment.
oh, it's still there.
So
Until that moment, like it's still there.
that's a long
They
time
still
to
don't
carry.
talk. Yeah.
You know, something like, it's so interesting. Like, you know, as you and I look to rid ourselves of this baggage that some people either knowingly or unknowingly choose to carry that shit your whole life. It just, I can't imagine, you know, having that with me. Whatever ails you your whole life, like you're gonna carry that to the end of the road. Shit.
Well, so to make it to not to excuse it, but she still was poking the bear, even on her deathbed, still doing things to just really trigger them. So it just like, yeah.
That's interesting. You got what sounds like an interesting family, interesting in like like what's going on here kind of way. But like I imagine there's some good stories in there somewhere, right?
Well, then here's a great story. So then her husband had passed before that, and he was growing up always probably at my parents' house, like maybe like every other weekend, like just like doing things. Like when they lived in New Jersey, he was always putting pictures up or new artwork or just like whatever, just like they were just like, or fixing things. Like he was very handy, always fixing something or doing something. And I remember he had dementia. And so he was in the hospital and they wanted me to go visit. And I said, no, I didn't want to go visit. And everyone was so confused. of why I didn't want to go, because everyone would think I'd be the first person to want to go. Because I was always like the child that every time he came, he always had a present for me, like always giving me like extra attention, like compared to like everyone else. But the thing was, he's a big pervert. So never like did anything inappropriate with me to like I'd have to give him a kiss on the lips.
Huh. This is Unc?
Well, technically we like grandpa.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So so when he was in the hospital, it was knowing that he like, and this is like he like that was with me, but he's always making comments about like had made comment like as I was growing up, made like comments about like my development.
Suspect
And
shit.
yeah. And like anywhere we went, if there was another woman, like he was hitting on anyone. At, like it did, like that was like,
Yeah.
everyone
So,
would joke about it.
yeah. Yeah, that's what you do when there's like weird shit going on, right? You make jokes about it, like it's like something's funny,
Oh, it's
rather than
just
like,
what he does,
rather than be like,
We're just gonna,
no,
yeah,
Pop is bugging, you know what I mean? Like,
for real, for
like,
real.
what he's doing is not right.
Yeah,
Someone needs
no,
to-
he would not like. Trust me, if he were still alive, I'd be like, listen, he's not like he's never gonna be alone with my daughter.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
But my thing was in my head was he's already like he in a conscious mind state would talk the way that he talked and act the way he acted. Imagine being like just having that ultimate freedom of not know, like if he didn't recognize me and then just would start talking to me like I'm like some hoe in the street,
Yeah.
kind of like I'd lose my shit. Like I don't want that to be my last memory.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna keep the memories that I have, because I don't want him talking to me like I'm some like hot nurse or something. So it was kind of a way for me to like save my last memories of him.
Yeah.
Like
That makes
knowing
sense.
who he is at the core of him. I was like, this is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
like
don't.
that.
Yeah,
What you just said there, like, you know how you wrapped it up at the end? I like the story because it's like a long play, right? And then you hit me with the end and it wraps it all up. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm like, I like zip back to the beginning and I tie it all together. So I get it. That's how you wanted to preserve your memories of them. I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, it all connects because I too am the same way. Like, I don't, caskets, a lot of times, I don't walk up to them because in my mind, I'd rather see my last memory be something different than that right there. That's usually not for me. I don't think I've ever done that. So similar type thing. We're the same in that way. Like you want to preserve your last good memory.
I've looked at them in the casket.
No?
No, I have.
Oh.
And I'm just like, I wish I would have reserved, because I was just like, this is. But then I just, I guess it's like putting that in my mind of like, this is just part of the process. And this is, I still know what they looked like when they were alive. Because in the casket, it's.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's wild.
I think with my wife's father, that was a real, I kept using the word good, but I don't want to describe it as good. I would say like a healthy grieving process, from losing someone. And the first time I got there by having an unhealthy one when my cousin passed and he took his own life. We were in I think just after high school, a little bit after high school. It was like between 20 and 23. And I, in my mind, thought it was right to pretend like it didn't happen because he lived in a different state and I didn't see him much at the time. So I was just like, you know what, I'll just pretend like it's not even real, because I did not know what to do. I just still, no one's talking to you. You don't have access to therapists or no one in the family. Like nobody knows what to do and no one's talking to you. So you just internalize shit, which is dangerous, it's really dangerous to have that happen. So yeah, I would pretend that it didn't happen. And then for like the first year or so, I would see him everywhere I went, like all the time. And these people, I would see him, I'm like, and I just knew, it was like, this isn't right. Like something is wrong here. And I believe it was because of that process. Like I was literally see him everywhere I go. And I was like, I did this wrong. Whatever I did, whatever process I used, this pretending shit, that's not a healthy way to grieve someone's loss. Like, he's not here and I need to accept that, you know. Acceptance, I would say, is the key to like healthy grieving and walking towards it. Just like with anything that's difficult, you just have to go towards it,
Yes.
you know.
I've been trying to like hold my tongue because like when you said that about, trying to pretend it didn't happen and then
Mm-hmm.
you just end up seeing him
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And it's kind of like that's the whole thing when people try to sweep their emotions under the rug, it just comes out and like you want to pretend that, oh yeah, if I just sweep it under the rug, we won't see it. But then there's this mountain and everywhere you look, you're just tripping over all of the shit that's underneath the rug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would see him all the time in people. Sometimes to the point where I would have to like go like grab the person, and it was like, my mind was like doing a trick on me for sure. And then, I'm like young, don't really know what to do, no process, no nothing. It was the hardest loss I ever took, for yeah, for
So
certain.
what like
He's like a brother to me. I think just accepting it and understanding and working through it and realizing, because initially when something like that happens, you want to blame yourself. If you're not, well, I don't know about you, but that was my go-to. Just like, you think about what more could you have done and this and that, and knowing, because I knew that he was having some trouble, but I didn't know it was that troubling. And he was like, man, I should have did this, I should have did that. Just all the guilt, that I was putting on myself, and just realizing that none of this shit that I'm doing to myself is healthy, and I need to do the opposite of that, which is, relieve myself of some of that guilt, and just, accept that that is what it is now, and not be scared of it, because we're the same age and we're like brothers, and then you start thinking like, is this my destiny too? Like, is this something that's in our family? Like, why? Why did this happen? Because
wait, this was a brother.
no, I said he's like a brother to me.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no,
That's
no,
what I
no,
thought.
no, no, cousin.
Okay. And then I was like, wait.
Cousin,
Okay.
but he's like a cousin. He's my mom's sister's
Okay.
kid, so we sharing some blood there. So you just
Okay.
start thinking like,
Understood.
hey, are we, like, is this
Is it
something
a
that's in our
genetic?
family? Yeah, exactly. I was terrified of that shit. Still, in the back of my mind there, but just having a bunch of unhealthy thoughts, that's really the key to working my way out of that, was practicing having more healthy thoughts, really, and just working through it and not trying to run from it.
Can I have an example?
Of healthy thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, the first healthy thought I said was literally just like accepting it, and going towards it, just accepting the fact that, he's gone, and relieving myself of the guilt. Those are the healthy thoughts, rather than, thinking that there was something that I could have done or this or that. Like, you go back down the line of times where you could have did more, or you should have did this, or you should have did that, or why didn't I do this? And none of that shit is helping. You can't beat yourself up over it. That's not going to make anything better. It's not going to bring them back. It's not going to make you feel better. But it's all you know to do when something like that first happens. I assume, at least this was for me. I don't know if people, if everyone does this, but I can't imagine when you lose someone, you just start thinking healthy shit right away, right?
Yeah, no. Oh, well, I'm the worst. Only because I had the weirdest thought right now
What?
of like, part of me, like the vision that just went through my head of like someone, like I've never had the experience of like, or knowing anyone personally that has committed suicide. And so part of my like curiosity of, the whole process and the universe and all of that is like, do they die? And then like, do they learn the lessons that they were supposed to learn? They're like, all right, let's hit the reset button and then just like get reincarnated. And part of that too was literally today. I don't even know what my daughter and I were talking about, but she was asking me about something that happened like 10 years ago. And she's like, so was I born? And I was like, well, you were 5. You're 5 now, and that happened like 10 years ago. So no, you weren't born. And then the thought was like, but maybe you were like an 80-year-old man or something, at that time when that happened, and then got like reincarnated like into our daughter or whatever. Like,
You're going long play with it.
so part of me, like when you said about they're not coming back, I'm like, but is that true?
Yeah. Shit, I don't know. I don't
like,
know. Yeah, I guess, yeah. in the physical form, like that person,
Yeah,
is
in that
probably not coming. But who knows?
in that
Maybe we're all
physical
coming back. Maybe we've
body.
done this shit hundreds of times or thousands of millions of times. I don't. Who
Well,
knows?
yeah, I think
Who knows what?
I really do think so. But I think different like suits, different flesh suits.
Yeah. Who knows, right? Like, no, you can't definitively say anything because no one's came back and told us about it. So yeah, loss for sure. Those are some of the.
We just were all over the place today.
We kind of stuck to it a little bit, though.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
what? So, what tools? What kind of coping mechanisms do you teach people to deal with loss? Like initially, say someone's come to you, say, "Hey, I'm having a hard time with loss. This. What would you suggest?"
Yeah, so definitely something that you've been mentioning, the reprogramming of the thoughts. Something that I've been talking about is, again, with the reprogramming of the thoughts, but adding activities or things to raise the vibration and think about things in a positive way of how we can remember these people in a healthy way. Breath work is something that I work with, helping people to, with the anxiety that may be associated with it. Yoga, different chakra alignments, I do like readings. So I have like a grief deck that will give like suggestions. Do you want one?
A grief deck?
Yeah, do you want to pull a card?
Yeah, you can give it to me. I'll take a grief deck. Hopefully, am I going to pull a card right now? Like,
Yeah.
hopefully it's not something that's going to like make me cry or some shit.
I don't know. I have no guarantees.
Yeah, me either.
But crying's still good.
Yeah,
So, right?
I'm
So it's like, maybe it's like something that you need to release.
Yeah, you mentioned yourself being a crier earlier about TV shows. I'm the same way. And I wasn't always like that. I think it was, I don't know, but I assume it was because so much of what was happening to me as a kid was like bottled up. As I got older and just became okay with releasing those emotions, I'll just be crying about all types of shit. Like every day, I could cry about anything. I mean, my son could probably look at me a certain way and I might cry,
I mean, but is that bad?
No, absolutely not. Just not something that I would have leaned into as a younger man. I would have definitely steered clear of all this crying shit. And not for any particular reason. No one ever told me that. I never had like men in my ear saying, don't cry. I know that's a theme amongst men, but I wasn't really getting a lot of that because I was raised by women.
But what about at school? Like, I feel like social media and like, you know.
Probably the messaging. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, definitely some of that was in the messaging, but I wasn't. Just pull any card? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got a death grip on these cards. Should I turn it over?
Yeah.
Hold yourself in grief. Be gentle with your body. Oh, I could read out loud. Hold yourself in grief. Be gentle with your body through this loss. Find a safe and comfortable space to sit or lie down. Breathe. Name your grief out loud. Cry for as long as you need to. Place your hand on your heart and speak to your lost loved one, whatever you want to say. Hold and comfort your body as though it were your beloved dead. Good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I'm just
that.
picturing doing that activity. That would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, doesn't that sound like very therapeutic,
absolutely. Yeah, and this is the opposite of the shit that I was doing, when I first lost someone. Like, you just don't know. It's interesting how difficult, some of these emotions are to make your way through and how limited information people have to get through this shit. Like, who's getting the information? Do you know? Are people out there, like, are people getting this information that you know of? Like, do you know kids that are being taught these things, or do you remember anyone telling you anything about grief or anything?
No, definitely. I feel like definitely not our age demographic. Mm-hmm. But what I will say and what I love is that our age demographic is having children that are learning those things, mm-hmm. that they are talking. And like, this is, so also both of us live in the suburbs. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that is a different, to be fair, like our children, like in some of the schools, are learning about breath work. Mm-hmm. I can't say that schools in Philadelphia, that mm-hmm. the children that are like the ages of our children mm-hmm. are having that experience. Yeah. But our generation, I don't think at any school they were having. So it's got to
Yeah.
start somewhere. But my main point is that I love to see that it is, even if it's not everywhere, it is somewhere, and it's going to cause a ripple effect and be the new normal. So I see through future generations the new normal of being able to process emotions, including grief, in healthy ways. I see the change. I'm welcome to the change. I'm excited for the change.
You're part of the change.
Exactly. We are part of the
Yeah,
change.
absolutely.
Our children are, and I don't know if I said this before on the podcast, but I've definitely said it a bunch of times, like in my life, like since my daughter's been born. But like she right now is more emotionally intelligent than most adults I know.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right. I I don't know if I could say when that really kicked in for me, but as a kid, I didn't have much of it, for sure. Especially if you're like an athlete, because we're all just trying to fit in. And for me, sports was my thing, so it was just that lane was the one that I stuck to. I didn't really deviate outside of that at all.
You have a homework assignment, by the way.
What is it?
You have to do this.
Oh, I got to do the thing.
Yeah.
I'll take a picture of it. I think I would do this. I would do all it. I do yoga. I do everything. It's like, I'm thankful for the tools, all the shit.
Okay. Well, I'm going to send you a picture of it, and then you need to do it, and then tell us like what the experience was like.
Yeah, appreciate that. All right, that's it. Loss. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks
Later.
for having me.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to The Awakened Avoidant. We hope our convo has provided you with insight, inspiration, and healing energy. As you go about your week, let's continue to work together to heal ourselves and our community. Stay safe and continue to spread healing vibes wherever you go. Catch a new episode Wednesday weekly on all platforms.
Made it from scratch, that's just what my life is. Picking my face and I'm counting